The storm is coming. Markets are crashing. Banks are closing. When the economy collapses, how will you survive? You need a plan. Cash, gold, Bitcoin. Dirty Man safes keep your assets hidden underground at a secret location, ready for any crisis. Don't wait for disaster to strike. Get your Dirty Man safe today. Use promo code DIRTY10 for 10% off your order. When uncertainty strikes, peace of mind is priceless. Dirty Man Underground Safes protects what matters most. Discreetly designed, these safes are where innovation meets reliability, keeping your valuables close yet secure. Be ready for anything. Use code DIRTY10 for 10% off today and take the first step towards safeguarding your future. Dirty Man Safe, because protecting your family starts with protecting what you treasure. Disaster can strike when least expected. Wildfires, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes. They can instantly turn your world upside down. Dirty Man Underground Safes is a safeguard against chaos. Hidden below, your valuables remain protected no matter what. Prepare for the unexpected. Use code DIRTY10 for 10% off and secure peace of mind for you and your family. Dirty Man Safe. When disaster hits, security isn't optional.
And not related to that alleged crime, according to Memphis police, a woman working for that nonprofit, Memphis Rocks, faced a judge today. Rashonda Burrell is charged with allegedly taking nearly $250,000 from that organization.
So recently on this channel, I heaped a lot of praise on the Memphis mayor, a guy called Paul Young, for rejecting Black Lives Matter orthodoxy and deciding to focus on policing and making sure the Memphis Police Department can build cases in order to lock people up for extended periods of time, because he was smart enough to know after the year of the highest homicides in the history of the city of Memphis, which is 2023, that this whole approach with community organizations and whatnot just doesn't work. Midnight basketball is not a solution to criminality, and I gave him a lot of praise, but the thing is, we also have to talk about the corruption in those very same organizations, and a perfect example of that corruption is this organization called Memphis Rocks, which is a nonprofit that provides rock climbing to the potential criminal types in the city of Memphis. And allegedly, we are told that this rock climbing exhibit is going to help them not do crimes anymore, because I don't know if you guys know this. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this theory, but innocent Baba Angel Aladdin stopped shooting each other as soon as they're able to do indoor rock climbing. Now, of course, this is kind of double a joke in terms of this particular story, because there was actually a shooting at Memphis Rocks at this organization. So the whole thing about this being able to prevent shootings like midnight basketball, even though the crime just happens there, obviously a contradiction and absurd. And in addition to that, they recently indicted a woman who works at this organization for using nearly $250,000 of the nonprofit's money to pay her own credit card bills, to enjoy her own lavish lifestyle. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
It is a case of alleged theft. Investigators say goes back more than 3 years. It took the judge just under 3 minutes to call Rashonda Burwell up, who was sitting looking straight ahead waiting for her turn. Monday, she was informed of her charge of theft of property before the judge asked whether she had an attorney, which she now does. The 54-year-old is accused of profiting from the nonprofit she worked for in an amount just shy of $250,000.
So one of the things that's most annoying about the nonprofit industrial complex in our great nation is that a lot of the times the scams, the schemes, they're not all that elaborate. Now, make no mistake about it, a bunch of nonprofits are just sophisticated theft operations, in my opinion. And part of the way that they end up misappropriating a bunch of your money in the legal way is that they transfer money from the nonprofits to sub-nonprofits, and then they pay off the staff of that sub-nonprofit. and that is the legal way when you donate or see a big amount of money, like $100 million to California Wildlife Relief, that money never actually makes it to the wildlife victims. That's because it's being spread through a bunch of different various nonprofits and paying the staff of those organizations. And there was actually a notorious instance of this where Patrisse Cullors of the Black Lives Matter organization transferred, I believe, something like $6 million to an organization in Toronto, Canada, and they used that to buy a Communist Party headquarters mansion for that organization, having absolutely nothing to do with innocent Beba Angel black people being victimized by the police here in the United States of America.
One Family Memphis that serves as the parent organization for Memphis Rocks is where Burwell was in charge of finances. Following an audit this past April, what surfaced, according to investigators, was the discovery of hundreds of thousands going to Burwell's personal bills. Detectives allege just over $37,000 went to American Express, more than $180,000 to Chase, with over $5,000 going to MLGW.
But the thing is about this particular case is that it's not even that sophisticated. It's not even that much of a way of diverting money away from good causes and what you're actually supposed to be spending it on to bad causes and personal expenses. In this particular story, it appears that this woman just used the nonprofit money that, again, is supposed to help innocent Beba Angel Aladdins climb rocks so they stop shooting each other, to pay her own credit cards, to pay her own American Express and Chase bank bill, to pay for all the expenses that she had been overcharging to herself. That appears to be what the allegations are, or as the super mayor would call them, alizations.
Off of hearsay. False allegations and not facts.
So they say that this was all discovered in an April audit of this particular organization's finances, and during the course of that audit, which, by the way, should have been done each and every year because they have to file financial disclosure forms each and every year in order to maintain their tax-exempt status, they were able to discover some suspicious transactions. And by suspicious transactions, I mean so obvious, so absurd that you don't need to be an accountant or anybody with an above 85 IQ to determine that this is in fact criminal activity, that this is very suspicious to say the least, because the woman appears to have just paid $35,000 over the course of 3 years to her personal American Express account, and of course $180,000 to her Chase account, which I believe both of these are credit cards. So this isn't even a situation where she got credit cards for the nonprofit itself and was using those credit cards for personal expenses. It appears that she, being in charge of the finances, just took the money, paid off her own bills, paid off her own expenses, and was able to get away with it for 3+ years. And again, it's really unfortunate. It's really sad because a lot of the money that are in these organizations are either donated through tax dollars, so they're robbing the taxpayers, or donated by good people who truly, genuinely believe that the thing that's going to make the difference between these youths and teens from joining gangs and shooting each other up is something like rock climbing, is some kind of community activity. But in reality, the data shows us that this isn't really the case. And honestly, we've seen this so many times where people hide behind the veneer of helping specifically black youths, struggling youths at risk, just to line their own pockets, that it has become beyond a trend. It's basically the standard. This is what you would expect. And it's really absolutely terrible because all these different various people are all taking advantage of your concerns about evil white racism, of your concerns about police brutality, in order to enrich themselves. And again, they're not even doing it in any kind of reasonably sophisticated way. Again, at least Patrisse Cullors of the Black Lives Matter organization, when she was stealing your money, a lot of that theft and misappropriation was done in a legal way. Now, some of it is entirely questionable and could skew into illegal, and I hope she would face criminal charges for that. But the way that she bought that house for the Communist Party over in Toronto, very unfortunately, is absolutely legal, and we've seen those tactics used multiple different times. But again, we still have these very unsophisticated ways of stealing people's money.
After Monday's arraignment, Burwell left court, where she spoke briefly with her lawyer. We in turn spoke with attorney Seth Seagraves, who walked us through where things currently stand.
We found out this weekend that she was being charged. She surrendered herself, and we're looking forward to her day in court.
While also telling us what's still to come.
We'll be looking forward to seeing what the state shows us, provides us, As for the 14th, I don't have any answers for what that will look like. It'll just be another day in court.
Listen, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I can't diagnose a lawyer with loser syndrome. But if you were ever going to look at a lawyer's face and think about how a jury was going to respond to him and whether or not they would buy into his arguments or whether they would just reject the client entirely, this guy would definitely be in the rejection category. I mean, we have the posture, we have the build, we have the haircut. And to me, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying it seems like she got this lawyer off of a bus stop ad or something based on the idea that he would represent her for free, because in reality, he is a giant disappointment to his parents. Now, I know that's a lot of shade for me to throw onto a guy who's just defending a client, but in reality, I mean, what else do you want me to say about this? She got the schlubbiest looking lawyer humanly possible. Typically, what these black organizations end up doing is get a very good speaking or like religious pastor sounding kind of attorney to accuse everybody of evil white racism for the indictment. And for whatever reason, this woman broke from the mold in that regard. And she has this guy and he's like, yeah, I think court is going to be good. I think we're going to do a trial. I don't know how you pronounce that. And my client, whatever her name is going to be proven completely innocent. And then of course they asked how she was paying this particular attorney. And he's like, oh, I take American Express. And by the way, yeah, she's using the nonprofit money to pay off that American Express, which is an additional charge that I will also represent her for. Of course, I'm just kidding about that last part. This part is all jokes, but in reality, this is actually truly, genuinely sad. And by the way, even though I brought up how there was a shooting at this particular community center event, you might think that's an isolated incident, but it's actually very unfortunately commonly the case, so much so that it was actually commented upon by the mayor back when he came into office when he was talking about the new tough on crime approach.
But the streets in many parts of Memphis remain challenged by crime. So far this year, there have been 4 shootings at or near community centers. Monday night, Memphis police responded to the Raleigh Community Center, where a shooting injured 4 people, 3 of them seriously.
And this is honestly genuinely one of the saddest things about this, because I'm not saying that you shouldn't spend any money on trying to have programs for the community, trying to help at-risk youth pick up other hobbies and whatnot. I don't want them to be deprived just because they're in a place that has a lot of poverty due to the fact that they have a lot of criminality, because make no mistake about it, crime drives poverty, not the other way around. But the fact is, all of these bad actors that like to hide under the veneer of defund the police, reallocating funds to these nonprofits, they seem to be just actively robbing the place all the time. They seem to be more criminal than the criminal use that they're trying to divert with rock climbing. And unfortunately, there are dire consequences for this from the taxpayers, because as we saw with that chart put out by the Memphis police back in 2020, when defund the police was first on the menu, when you cut funding from the police department and they lose staff, violent crime goes up. Again, this chart, absolutely crucial. It should be known across the city of Memphis what a disastrous policy they actually have. And based on what we talked about in the city of Oakland in a recent video, where they actually discovered something I've been telling you for about 5 years, which is when you cut funding to law enforcement, crime goes up. That drives businesses down. Then that creates a giant budget deficit in the city of Oakland because people leave the city, businesses close, and people don't even shop in the city when they can avoid it. You end up in a situation where you then have to cut police even more because there's still a high percentage of your budget. So what you ultimately end up with is a death spiral in terms of criminality. And by the way, no funding for these kind of programs anyway. Ironically, if they increased the budget of the police, if they actually went after the criminals, the economic conditions in the city would improve, and they could use those increased tax revenues in order to have more programs like Memphis Rocks that are actually not being stolen from, and everybody would be better off. But of course, they took the opposite tact here. This is the leftover remnants from the consequences of the Black Lives Matter movement, and I'm hopeful that people start to clean up this nonsense. The grifters and thugs and bums that are robbing money from these kids actually face consequences, and we can move forward in a better direction from this point on. And again, Paul Young deserves a lot of credit because he's attacking the problem from where it needs to be attacked. See my video on that previously, linked in the description, but that's where I'm going to leave it as of right now. I want to know what you guys think about all this down in the comments below. Did this woman really steal all this money, or were those legitimate expenses from her personal credit card that she used the nonprofit money for? Now, as usual, if you like this video, show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me. The support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about a Memphis nonprofit getting robbed from the inside. Till next time.